this video, we are going to be looking at the concept of content entry. Content entry into content. Look at it as the introduction to your day. This includes a virtual hallway experience, if you will, where you will be greeting students at the door. Imagine for yourself the traditional classroom experience for students, where they might walk into an agenda on the board. They might walk into some criteria for success, maybe a quote of the day, maybe something inspirational, or even just some basic logistical protocols and reminders of the best course of action and the best practice to do their very best in your class. And so when we talk about entry into content, it is inclusive of social emotional learning concepts. It's inclusive of teacher connection, teacher motivation, and also then the development of content entry, which will include vocabulary and then access to entry points that will give students an equitable shake and access to the content that you're ready to teach them. Okay, and so our purpose for this session is to develop that fully formed virtual experience using Prezi. Prezi is going to be used to enter kids into content and as our focus tool. It is not the only way to do it. It's not the only tool, but the suite of services that it provides will give a very streamlined access to the three components: the social emotional connection, statement of instructional purpose, the visual vocabulary and ways for students to collaborate on that, or for you to demonstrate that, or for them to build it on their own as a follow-up. And also the last piece of a starter or a hook, a do now, but one that is multi-layered. Prezi presentations allow for multi-layer, multi-level presentations, not just a linear version. Okay, your expected outcome is that you will create all of those things. You're going to create a lesson introduction, a statement of instructional purpose, the video using Prezi video. We're going to look at designs real quickly so that you can create a Frayer model. So we'll get into what a Frayer model is. We'll talk about the components of a Frayer model. It is, again, just one model, but it is what I consider to be a really great go-to practice and a way for you to allow students to visualize, use non-linguistic representation, but also extend that into concepts of like examples, uses in sentences, examples in real world, and then non-examples and misconceptions. Okay, so that they can differentiate and create similarities and differences in their mind between the uses of certain terms that even might have some overlap in other content or in real world experiences. And then lastly, we're going to look at the concept of multiple entry point do-nows, starters for your content lesson that might require different access points, whether it is different levels of reading or capacity levels of understanding, complexity levels for students to reach and get into the content conversation. And so you'll see the components of and get a quick tutorial on how to create these experiences. And then you'll be able to create these experiences on Prezi presentations. So the strategies we're going to use are obviously Prezi is the technology strategy, but we're also including Frayer models and multiple entry point starters. The time is on you. That is going to be determined by you as you kind of self-navigate and self-direct this session and then your practice time with it afterwards. So once again, the reminder here, the focus tool is that Prezi Suite contains three different tools: Prezi Video, Prezi Designs, and Prezi Presentations. A lot of P's. So what you've been experiencing so far is the statement of instructional purpose for this session. This is our time to look each other in the eye, even asynchronously, to talk about how we break down the purpose of this session, the expected outcome, the strategies we're going to use, and the time. Remember the importance of our post. This was done on Prezi Video. What you might have noticed is that as I was talking, things were leaving or entering back into the conversation. Or if I want to, I can switch to a full presentation mode, and I'll just work this backwards because this was the end of the presentation. But you can see how if I work it backwards, the really pretty smooth transitions, very, very user friendly. This is done with 3 buttons and then arrow keys. So right now, without maybe being able to see it, my left hand is on the numbers 1, 2, and 3 on my keyboard. And I can use 1 as full screen, just me. I can use 2 as split screen with the presentation, or I can click 3 and go full screen presentation. No matter which mode I'm in, I can move left and right to advance the presentation along or to retract it and go backwards like I just did. So again, Prezi Suite contains 3 tools. I'm going to kind of switch to this, but as I'm switching it, I'm going to pull it into a split screen as well. Last but not least, we might get to the end of this, and this is really where you're looking to connect with your students and give them that motivational speech or that little quick pep talk, or maybe again throw an inspirational quote in, something that you might have normally done each day in your room as it is. So I might just turn off the lettering, the view, the presentation, and just let them know, like I'm going to let you know, how excited that I am that you're here, how I believe that you're going to be able to accomplish these goals, make them useful, that you can use the portal and use me and Dr. Galante as your resource if you come across any questions that you have about the material or about the logistics. Remember, the great Albert Einstein once said, "I never teach my students. I only create the conditions by which they can learn for themselves." Happy planning.